As a creative aspect, TV is one of the best things that we do as a species. Along with music and film and books, they bring out the best creative of all of us. They entertain and they bring so much joy to many. They invoke emotion and enable us to feel things that we bury sometimes deep down. That's what this podcast is for. Welcome to A Million Little TV Shows. This is what I call the breakdown while I break down. Each week I will go through a different TV show, a different season of that TV show, and different episodes of that show. And I will break down not only emotions, but I will break down stories from my life, and let you know why these TV shows mean so much to me, and why I believe that they are some of the most important shows out there. This podcast is here to highlight a lot of smaller TV shows, or TV shows that don't really get a platform, because we know of a bunch of TV shows that get a multitude of different podcasts. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones, The Office, they've all got several podcasts out there analysing all types of different things. But there's not many out there for the little guy, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. So each week I will go through a different show, different seasons, different episodes, and I will go across all different kinds of genres and different countries to bring you what I believe is some of the best TV out there. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here for this journey. And if you've watched the shows before and you wanted to come here and get an analysis on them and have someone go through them and pick out bits that you might have enjoyed, then I'm glad you are here. If, however, you have never watched the show and you just want to come and have someone talk in your ear about different TV shows, I'm glad you are here. But I hope that it inspires some people to go and seek out these TV shows. They deserve to be watched. They were made with love and care, and they are the same as this podcast, made with love and care. I am your host, Mike, and I will take you through every adventure, every horror, every piece of drama, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 8 of season 12, and we're just going to be getting back into the Bates Motel today. I'm really excited about this episode, as I always say. I know I'm always excited about all the episodes I watch, but I picked some pretty good TV shows, I think, over the last 12 seasons, so yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going. But Bates Motel was definitely something that I really enjoyed when it came out, and when I was doing this podcast and the concept came up, and I thought about the shows I'd watched in the past, this was definitely on the list. Yes, it's taken me 3 years to get here, but I think I've covered some pretty decent shows in the meantime. So let's just do a little recap on what's actually happened so far. So we met Norman, we met his mother Norma, we even met his brother Dylan. And it seems like Dylan is going to be the foil to Norma's hold over his brother. Norman is definitely someone who loves his mother a lot and just wants her to be happy, but also he wants to be involved in her happiness as much as possible. And does seem to be someone who would probably get jealous when it comes to his mother having any sort of relationship. He is very close to her, but close in a way that makes you feel a little bit icky. It's not the normal mother-son relationship. She's come to town, she's bought this motel, the Bates Motel now, and the very first night that she's in there, she gets attacked by the previous owner. Her and Norman end up killing this man and throwing him in a lake. However, while they were disposing of the body, the police turned up, and it seems like the sheriff has designs on actually arresting Norma, because whatever she says, he is like a dog with a bone with this one, and just won't let it lie. Dylan, who is Norma's other son from a different marriage, has come into town and has found his mum. She was basically ready to abandon him, but he knows the influence that she has over Norman and just wants to make sure that he gets the right kind of guidance throughout his life and not just hear only his mother's voice. So he's turned up in town and he's trying to look after his brother. While in town, Norman has met both Emma Cody and Bradley Martin. Both seem to have affections for him. One seems to be a little bit more, popular and probably a bit of a player than the other one. And at the end of the last episode, we found out that Norma's new boyfriend, who actually is a detective or a deputy in town, and who knows what's happened with Norma's attack, and the fact that she killed this guy, he is trying to cover up for her. However, he has a lot of crimes that he is covering up for himself. When Norman goes over to retrieve a belt, which this man has took from Norman's room, he finds a woman locked up in this guy's basement. And that's where we pick up from. So let's get into it. This is Bates Motel, Season 1, Episodes 4 to 7. Episode 4, Trust Me. So, at the end of Episode 3, when we saw Norman head off to this Deputy Shelby's house, we actually saw someone on a motorbike coming the other way. It turns out that was Dylan. Dylan spots his brother basically walking off in a trance. He doesn't even see the fact that Dylan is there. And so Dylan realises that something is definitely not right with Norman and drives off after him. He sees everything that happens, he sees the full break-in, and he waits. And he sees that Deputy Shelby comes back. Knowing Norman isn't clear of the house yet, or waiting to see if he's there, Dylan eventually goes and knocks on Deputy Shelby's door. When Shelby opens the door, Dylan essentially asks for gas, or at least where the nearest gas station is, because he's lost, he's new to town, and his bike's broken down. And since Shelby hasn't met Norma's other son yet, he just kind of points him in a direction and lets him go, but it's quite late at night, so Shelby obviously just wants to get into his house and settle in for the night. Down in the basement, however, we see that Norman is really struggling to get out of there. This girl has now woken up and she is gripping onto him and asking him to help. He manages to get out, he gets out through a side window and runs off. He tells the girl that he will come back for her, but obviously that can't be promised. And then he runs off into the night. Once he gets back home, Dylan sees him and asks him what the hell he was doing, and Norman just ignores him and goes into the house. The next day, however, Shelby goes over to see Norma. Norman at this point is at school, and Shelby basically says, can we go back to your place and just hang out? They go into one of the motel rooms and end up having sex, but when they come out, this is where Shelby and Dylan finally properly meet for the first time. Obviously Shelby recognises him straight away, and Dylan is quite shocked at the fact that his mother is sleeping with this guy. Shelby then goes and meets Norman. He tells him that Norma and he are now dating and that, maybe they could hang out sometime. Maybe they could go fishing. Norman heads back home and speaks to his mother and basically tells her, look, I don't like the guy. I think there's something not right there. He obviously knows what's not right, but he can't tell his mother right now. He tries to warn her, but she just won't listen. She's got that blindness, that rose-tinted glasses that you have in a new relationship. When someone warns you that the person is bad news and you don't want to listen, you rose-tint it. You basically follow your heart. Well, in this case, probably your loins, but yeah, you don't generally listen to your head. Also, Norman tells his mother that it was her that told him to try and steal the belt back, but she obviously denies all of this because, well, it wasn't her, it was his visions. She knows that he sees visions and she tells him as much, but Norman's so stubborn that he doesn't want to listen to it. Or maybe he's just deluding himself, and therefore doesn't want to listen to her either. The next night, however, she ends up at the deputy's house and tries to get into the basement. When she goes down there, there's nothing down there, and well, whatever Norman had seen is no longer there. He'd obviously cleared the house out. He must have known that Norman had been down there, or at least someone had been down there, and now he is suspecting of probably Dylan. But there's a good chance that there was someone else with Dylan at the time, and he was covering for him, and therefore fingers do point to Norman. So now that Norma doesn't have any evidence, she confronts Norman about this. She tells him, look, you need to start accepting that I am in a relationship with this guy, and you're going to do what I say when it comes to him. He wants to take you fishing tomorrow, and you're going to go. That's it. That's the end of it. And so when Norman does, he's very reluctant to do so, but he goes anyway, just because his mother has asked him to. She's always going to be the dominant force in his life. And eventually when Shelby gets a call to say that he's needed in town, Norman just heads back home. When he gets there, he sees his brother and they sit and talk. He tells him what he saw, he tells him what's happened and why he is the way that he is with this guy and why he's been suspicious, and Dylan tells him that he will help him. However, at this point, Norman also gets a text from Bradley. We've seen Bradley in a couple of scenes in the episode, and every time her and Norman have been close, but at this point it's 10 o'clock at night and she's texting him, and it's just a simple word, hey. Dylan says, look, text her back properly, tell her you're coming over, and just go and have some fun. You're a teenager, you're meant to break the rules a little bit, just go and do some fun things with her, see if she's up for it. And so he listens to his brother and tells her, look, I'm going to come over if that's okay, and she comes back with yes. Everyone else is asleep, so just come to the front door, and when he does, they end up going up to her bedroom and making out. I think they do other things, but that's up to them. It's certainly implied that they do. And so when Norma is looking for Norman in the house, Dylan takes all the pleasure in the world to tell her that her baby boy isn't there and he is out with a girl and hopefully getting fucking laid, because this whole relationship with him is weird between the two of you. And he needs to be out there and he needs to be being a child or being a teenager, enjoying his life instead of being at the whim of his mother. Norma tries to strike out at Dylan and eventually he wrestles his mother until she is crying in his arms and she's just telling him how much she hates him, which is a horrible thing to say. He's trying to do his best. It's not his fault that he isn't the boy that she wanted him to be. But just as they calm down, there is a knock at the door and it is Sheriff Romano. He tells her that he's taking her into custody because she's under arrest. Throughout the episode there has been talk of this hand that has been found in a lake, and of course we know that Norma and Norman actually put the guy who attacked Norma in the lake. So Norma is under suspicion. There is carpet fibre samples in the watch strap of this guy, and the carpet that Norma actually got rid of may have been found because when she tried to retrieve it, she couldn't find it anywhere. So there's a good chance that the police already have it, and she is now implicated in his death. But I guess we'll find out next episode. Episode 5, Ocean View. So, the next morning, Norman is getting ready. He's still at Bradley's. He leaves, and, you should see the smile on the kid's face. He's happy as all fuck that he has managed to get with the girl that he's wanted to get with since moving to town. And he heads home. Once he gets there, however, he's confronted by Dylan. Not confronted, but met by Dylan. He asks where her mother is and obviously gets told that Norma has now been taken into custody. So from this moment of elation to a moment of, oh fuck, what do we do now? They both go over and see Norma, and Norma is just... the contrast between how Norma is sometimes and how she is at this particular point is just night and day. She sits and tells both her son how fucking disappointed she is because, well, she's just... it's like she doesn't want her children to have a life outside of her, but she has to have a life outside of them. And it's an odd relationship. But then it becomes all hands to the pump. It seems like Dylan is going to try and help his mum get out of there, but when he asks if he can get an advance on his pay, it turns out it's just for his own reasons. He actually wants to move out of the house, and he needs that money for his own place. Norman, however, heads off and tries to find the deed to the actual motel. While he does, Emma turns up, and she is just trying to help him out. She has obviously got a thing for him. Even her father in the last episode has told Norman that Emma actually has a thing for him. So she offers to help when Norman tells her that he is going to try and get his mother some bail money. While they're actually stood outside the bail office, Emma tries to kiss Norman again. She did in, I think it was episode 2, and she has done in this one as well. She obviously wants him as her own and wants to be with him. But Norman is conflicted. He's wanted Bradley all along, and now that he's had her, he cannot get enough. He keeps messaging her, and then he ends up dropping her a voice message just saying that he's happy for what happened the other night, he wants more, and hopefully she will get back to him as soon as possible. But it's a real rambling, like, first love, first crush kind of message, where they've shown you a little bit of attention and you are all in on the relationship before it's even got to be in a relationship. And of course, eventually he's got to tell Emma what's gone on. But first things first, he needs to get his mother out of prison. Or out of jail, at least. She's not in prison. The next morning when Norma is out, he goes to see her. As she comes out of the jail or the police station, she literally just blanks her son. As if to say, like, I'm not talking to you. Like, she's proper horrible to him. Even though he's there, he's done things to help her get out. They end up going straight over to a lawyer's office, and throughout, it's just tension between the two of them. He keeps asking her to look at him, and when she does, she stares right through him. And it is a withering stare. And you can just see the manipulation tactics that she's using, because she wants to be his whole world, whereas she is building a world around him. And she doesn't want him going off and being with other women or whoever it is, even his brother. She doesn't want him siding with Dylan either. Eventually, on the drive back from the lawyer's office, he's trying to talk to her and she just can't anymore. she kicks him out of the car, and while he's walking back home, Dylan finds him and picks him up. And it just shows that his brother is going to care for him more than his mother will. His mother will manipulate him, but Dylan will actually try and look after him. He tells him as such and says he's going to move out as soon as possible, and he wants Norman to come with him. And I think it would have been good for Norman to actually be with his brother instead of being with his mum, because, well, his mother is just too controlling of him, and it's not good for him at all. Emma goes to see Norman after what's happened, and it's here where he actually tells her what's gone on. He tells her that he slept with Bradley and that they're in a relationship now, and he and Emma can't be. And it's a little presumptive of Norman to do so, but it's a little bit gutting for Emma as well. I mean, you can feel it. From the way Olivia Cooke delivers in the scene, she is tears on the cheek, she looks really hurt by this, and she's got the kind of face where you can see the hurt. She's always seemed quite a sweet character, or at least a sweet person in real life, and anytime that she plays something like this where she gets hurt, you can just see how much it hurts. And I really like that about this character, because you can see how hard she is working at all times, especially with this oxygen tank that she's got to drag around, and you know what she's been through and what she's going through, or you at least feel that she's dragging a weight around with her, literally sometimes, and physically others. This illness isn't going anywhere, and she has to constantly battle. And when she is around Norman, she seems to really perk up, and then she gets this devastating news and she just withers away. It's like another battle that she didn't want to have. But she also knows that she has to find this young girl, and now she knows Norman has seen this girl as well. They have to try and help. So whatever it is that she has got for Norman right now, she has to push to the back of her mind, because she needs to find this young Chinese girl. And so she tells Norman that Keith Summers used to have a boat, and if you knew that Keith Summers was dead and you were a partner of his, maybe you would keep the girl somewhere where no one's going to look. And even if he wasn't a partner, then you knew no one was going to be going onto that boat anytime soon because Keith Summers was dead. So they head over to this boat and they manage to find the girl. They take her out, they take her back to the motel, and then Norma has to confront the fact that her boyfriend, the person she has been seeing, the person that she has declared that she's in love with, is the person that has been doing this awful, awful crime to this poor young woman. And it feels like a real slap in the face for Norma, and now they're going to have to come up with a plan of what to do. They are in possession of someone who has been kidnapped, but also Emma, who is sweet and innocent, has got herself into some real trouble right now. Whereas Norma and Norman, this seems kind of day-to-day for them right now. They've murdered and disposed of a body so far, so it's not like they're not in the trenches with each other. And then we'll come back to Dylan, because Dylan has had a complicated episode. Now that he's got his new job and he is working for these weed merchants, he's stopped in the middle of town and he's waiting for someone to come along while he's sat with Ethan. Ethan basically tells him that the guy that they're meeting is a bit of a wrong 'un, but hey, as long as we get the money that he owes, we don't care anymore. However, this guy turns up tooled up and he shoots Ethan in the neck, and Dylan has to drive him to hospital. Once he gets there, he leaves Ethan in the hospital and heads out into the town. He drives around and eventually he actually finds the man who shot Ethan, and he runs him down in his truck. So it seems that all three of them from the Bates family, I know Dylan is a masty, but all three of them are in trouble right now. They've all killed or been in close contact of someone when they've been killed. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. Episode 6, The Truth. We literally pick up where we left off, and Norma is trying to process what she's seen, and she does what most people would do. She wants to confront him, she wants to go after him and find out why he's done the things that he's done. But Norman knows that this isn't smart. He manages to stop her driving away and tells her, look, we'll get him, but we need to do this the right way. We need to make sure that things are done correctly. But with him being in the police force, they probably can't go to the sheriff's department at all. So now they're left with what to do. And so they start to build up a plan. First of all, they need to get that belt from his boat, or at least try and check it out. Since he hid the girl there, maybe he has hid the belt there as well. Dylan tells them that he will help. He is on hand and he will do the things. He and Norman go out to this boat and they search around it, hoping that obviously Deputy Shelby's not going to turn up. Norma and Deputy Shelby have already worked out that they aren't going to see each other anymore due to the fact that Norma has been in trouble. But Shelby is also the one who made the evidence disappear for Norma. So she has now been informed by her lawyer that the charges have been dropped. There is no case. There is no fibre to actually link her to the case anymore, so she's home free. But that evidence could reappear at any time, because Shelby has it somewhere. But anyway, Norman and Dylan go over to this boat, they find the belt, and they throw it into the river. Norman worries that it might come back to haunt them, but Dylan tells them it's going to just sink to the bottom, and no one's ever going to find this. But while they are away, Norma has a visitor. Like I say, he's meant to be staying away from her, and even though he's told her that he's in love with her, and she has told him that, Shelby comes over and wants to see her. He just wants to have sex, in all fairness. He doesn't actually want to be there. And during his time there, he's just pushing to have sex with her. And since she won't do it in the house, he takes her down to the motel. When we cut back to the scene where they're actually having sex, Norma is just basically letting him do it. She is virtually just drumming her fingers on the bedsheets. She doesn't care. This is just a way to placate him. Like, do your thing and go away. He realises something's wrong and tries to get it out of her, but then he actually hears water running within the motel. Now, there's nobody in the motel at this point, so there should be no water running. He heads down a couple of rooms and finds Zhao, the girl who was actually tied up in his basement and then tied up on this boat. Zhao screams, runs, and he tries to fire at her. But Norma intervenes and he runs off after Zhao, but never catches her. By this point, Norman and Dylan have turned back up and they try and talk to his mother, but they're soon interrupted by Shelby. He drags them up to the house and starts to threaten them, and when he actually really starts to go in on Norma, he starts beating her and abusing her. Norman gets that look on his face. It's a blank stare, and you can just see that he is switching. He's turning that psycho on. He jumps up, runs at him, but manages to end up getting his head smashed into a wall before Dylan can actually go after Shelby. Those two get into a gunfight. Dylan gets hit, but Shelby gets hit in the ass. Dylan runs off upstairs to get some more ammo, and when he comes face to face with Shelby again, there is a massive gunfight. By this point, Norma and Norman are outside. They're in the car trying to get away, but Norma realises she doesn't have her keys. Just then, they see the gunshots, and a figure walks out of the house. It's got a limp, and we can only assume that it is Shelby. When we see the face, it is obviously Shelby, but he is in a bad way. There is blood streaming down it, and he looks like he's been shot in the eye. He turns the gun up towards where Norma is, but before long he just falls down the steps. He's dead. Dylan comes out, and he is perfectly fine apart from the shot in the arm. But Norma has already rung the police, so they are on their way. They know that there is a shootout or someone has been trying to kill them at the Bates Motel, and so they are on their way. Dylan looks at Norman, and he's just sat in the car. He hasn't moved, his face is the same, and he's just expressionless. There is nothing going on there. And Dylan asks if he's going to be okay. Norma tells him, look, he's going to be fine, he just switches off every now and again, and he's done it before. And then she retells the tale of what actually happened on the day that Norman's father died. She tells him that Sam was being abusive towards her. He came at her and started throwing hands. She tried to defend herself, but Norman came out of nowhere and took out his father. Before Norma could do anything, she realised that Norman wasn't in a fit state anymore, and she took him back to his room. He was essentially catatonic, and then Norma knew that she had to move quickly. She dragged the body into the garage and made it look like an accident, that some shelves had fallen on him and that he had died there and then. And so when Norman wakes up out of this catatonic state and goes to the garage, he sees his father dead and doesn't know what's happened. Norma can get away with it by saying that it wasn't him, it was just an accident, and that is all Norman will ever believe. But she tells Dylan that he gets like this, and when he does, we're going to have to protect him. And at that point, what I believe would be Sheriff Romero pulls into the Bates Motel. Episode 7, The Man in Number 9. So after all the drama of the last 2 episodes, and the fact that we've had this girl that's been kidnapped, we've had her found, she's been taken by a cop, and now that cop is dead at the hands of Norma and her sons, well, you'd think that there'd be a bit more repercussions than what there were. So the sheriff turns up, he comes and speaks to them, and basically finds out that this guy has been under his nose the whole time. Bear in mind, he's been suspecting Norma up to this point, and yeah, he basically goes, oh, well, if that's the case, then I'll just make up a story. And he makes up a story there on the spot that the deputy killed Keith and also kidnapped this woman, and therefore he was a bad guy. He's come after Norma, and things went down. The sheriff turned up, and he took him out. That's the story that they're sticking with. So, a little bit confusing, but okay. Like, he's not been on their side this whole time up until now. So, it's just a little bit weird. But now we get into the next day and the aftermath of what happened. So, Dylan sees a man staring at the motel. He goes out. The guy asks about what happened to the, say, Sunrise Lodge or Sunrise Motel. And Dylan tells him it's now the Bates Motel. It's under new ownership. So this guy asks, well, I used to have a room here every 2 months for a week. And before he can really say anything, this guy kind of drives off. So Dylan doesn't know what to think, but this guy's a little bit creepy. But later on in the episode, he does come back and he stood outside the room, and Norma is like, what the hell is going on? She goes over, she talks to him, and this guy explains the same situation. He used to have this agreement with Keith, and now they're under the new ownership, so what is he supposed to do? Norma gets him inside and just gives him the room. She says, if you want the same deal, you can have it. And so he takes the room. She doesn't take any details from him, though, and so when Dylan comes back and finds out this guy's in that room, he goes down and takes his name, and this guy is called Jake Abernathy. Now, throughout any interaction that anyone has with him, he's really creepy, really weird, kind of keeps himself to himself, but is also, there's something not right there. You can just feel it. But we don't get to know a lot about Jake. We just know that he comes down here, he conducts his business. Sometimes his business partners come in with him, and he just stays there for a week, and then he leaves. But he pays everything in cash, and Norma is happy to just take the business right now because, well, she's been into town earlier on that day and been told that no one wants to deal with her business right now because of the fact that everything has gone down. So with the deputy being killed there and the sheriff being up there in a shootout, the story has got back to town, and now everyone just thinks of it as the murder motel. And so as much as Norma wants to get things on track, for right now, it's not going to happen. Emma comes around and she comes to see Norman. Now, Norma essentially tells Norman that this girl really likes you. She's really into you, and I think it'd be good for you. Norman at this point, however, has had his heart broken. He's gone to see Bradley, and Bradley has essentially brushed him off. And yeah, he hasn't got the answer he was looking for previously. He thought that they were in a relationship, and it turns out that it was just a one-night thing. It was probably his first time, and yeah, he's got caught up in the moment. I think unless you were with a loving partner when you first did it, you probably ended up in that situation as well. I thankfully was with someone that I cared about, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, it doesn't seem like a great situation, because when she does meet up with him, he's there with Dylan, and Dylan and Bradley kind of just give each other the eye. There's a connection right there. There is a spark, and they both feel it. So whatever is going to happen between the two of them, it's not going to end well, because Norman is going to be really pissed at his brother and what he would consider as his girlfriend. But because of everything that's been going on and the fact that she knows how much Norman likes Bradley, Emma is upset by this. And Norma kind of just takes her under her wing and looks after her. They go into town, and Norma finds out more about who Norman is dating. And of course, when she finds out it's Bradley, she knows that Bradley came to the house and essentially tells Norman, look, this girl isn't a good person. She came to our house like the day you arrived. She's been sleeping with you after her dad died, and look, that is a little bit odd behaviour. And she basically calls her a whore. So Norman goes and speaks to Bradley, and she tells him, I think you got the wrong idea about us. It was a fun night, but that's all it was. I didn't mean this to be such a big thing. I was just lonely and I missed my dad and I needed some comfort and you were there. And the fun we had was all it is. So, of course, Norman is gutted by this. He walks away and as he does, he starts muttering to himself. And you can see him on that change. The problem is Bradley is right behind him and she is trying to catch up with him to explain the situation or at least give him some comfort. And now, knowing what we know, that he has killed before, we just fear that Bradley could be caught up in this. But thankfully, when she gets to him, she throws her arms around him and he kind of comes back to life. However, he heads home and throughout the day he's been trying to coax a dog which he found under the house. He's been trying to look after it and hopefully it will be their dog, the family dog. But when he gets home, the dog is in the middle of the street and then a car comes. The guy doesn't see the dog and the dog gets run over. So Norman is now devastated because he's lost his dog and his girlfriend and there's been a lot of shit going on around the motel. So he is in a real whirlwind. He only knows one thing, and that is if he takes it to Emma's house, Emma's dad, who is a taxidermist, will be able to do something with it. But if you're taking your dog to a taxidermist, it's already gone. But we'll have to find out what happens in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, apart from the change of heart with the sheriff, this has been excellent so far. It's been keeping you on tenterhooks throughout the whole time. But when they revealed who it was and they got rid of the killer, or the kidnapper in this case, things kind of went, well, now what? We've got 4 episodes left. Now what do we do? But yeah, I'm not enthused with the way that she kind of just got away with it, because I suppose you can say that he hid his own evidence and was trying to plant her up for it. And yeah, it makes sense in some regard, but in others it just doesn't. It kind of feels a bit rushed, but I'm still liking the show. I'm still enjoying the episodes. Norman is whiny at times, but it's not grating on me too much right now. But there are times when I just think, for fuck's sake, Norman, shut the fuck up, because he's a whiny little twat at times. But it's been really good. It's been really excellent so far, and I'm enjoying the hell out of this show. Part of me does want to hear a little bit more of the actual theme tune from the Psycho films somewhere just implanted in it, just so you can kind of get a grasp of what's going on, because I'm listening through headphones, so just having that kind of tune in the background might just trigger things for me. But other than that, the sound design's really good, the acting's incredible. I like the unhingedness that Norma has. I think Vera Farmiga is doing such a good job, and yeah, I'm really enjoying the show. But anyway, let me know what you think about this show. I think it's excellent, but there'll be a lot of people that don't, and there'll be a lot of people that do. But just come say hi, come chat to me, come talk to me about the show, and yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I'm done for today, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. As always, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you could really help me and the podcast by giving a like, share, subscribe on all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. As an independent podcaster, this will just help me exponentially when it comes to actually doing more things with this podcast. I truly do enjoy this, and I absolutely love revisiting these TV shows with you guys. So any engagement from you is always welcome, and I will try and listen to all of you when you give suggestions or just tell me what you think about the podcast. But once again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye.